All right. Hello, everyone, and now welcome to, a quick review of patch public test round 1.31. Really big surprise that Pete Stillwell and his team actually released new patch notes. And this is all really in preparation for WarCraft 3 Reforged. I believe the scheduled release date is December 31st. 2019, but really that really means that it's going to be sometime during the fourth quarter. So that's what we are all expecting. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Warcraft 3 Reforged does for the community. There should be a lot of events going on out there as well. Hopefully, if I do get an invite to BlizzCon, I will let you know. But I was passed up the last time around, even though I am very much nearby. Hey, shout out to Blizzard if you guys do have another Warcraft 3 event, either at the Blizzard headquarters in Irvine or at Anaheim. I work right down Sand Canyon. Um, yeah, one of my offices is right over there. So yeah, definitely reach out to me. I would love to talk about things and just go over and see where you guys are at. Maybe I don't know. Maybe just talk shop and be able to do some good casting now. First of all, public test realm 1.31, there's a whole bunch of command line changes, registry changes, world editor changes, but what we're really looking forward here is a lot of the balance changes. First things first, hero balance change number one, Blade Master. Windwalk, the cooldown now occurs when Windwalk breaks. Now this is a very subtle ability and a subtle change that a lot of viewers out there may not notice, but the professional players will definitely realize. One of the things that you could do in the past was you could actually go into Windwalk, and then the instant you break Windwalk, you could like steal a creep, you could steal an item, you can do something, you could break Windwalk, get that little bit of experience, and then immediately go back into Windwalk. Now the upside about this is you could steal the experience and then just hide again with no real downside. The problem was that it made it a little bit unplayable. There was no time for an interaction that your opponent could really do. Now what this change does is the instant the Blade Master breaks Windwalk in order to get that final hit, he has to wait at least 2 seconds in order to re-engage. So re-engage Windwalk and be able to get away. So it's a little bit more risk versus reward. The Blade Master has to time and has to really think about the creep that he's stealing, whether or not it's worth it, and the potential trade-offs. Say if your opponent has a Hex, if it's going up against a Shadow Hunter or a Stormbolt coming in from a Mountain King, he may not be able to get the Windwalk in and out and steal that little bit of experience. And it almost makes it unfun to play against. Yeah, Dimple Wonder, I am reading the chat. That is a very good balance change. And I like interaction. That's what the Blade Master and this Blade Master change is going to do. It's going to allow interaction. You don't want to feel like you're playing a game against a solitaire. So that's what I do like about it. Now, Critical Strike. Critical Strike now benefits from all damage once again, not just base damage. And this is a big change. It was one of the reasons why the Blade Master has fallen out of favor, and I think it's going to be one of the reasons why the Blade Master is going to be mained a little bit more again. Being able to get Claws of Attack +6 on certain maps, those items are going to be much more powerful for you, as you're able to use Claws of Attack +6, +9, even +12 in addition to your Orb of Lightning to get those higher and higher critical strikes. A lot of the time, orc units and the orc army just didn't have that high damage burst, and now that it's going back to that Blade Master, we'll see if it really balances things out. I think in the way things are working right now, because the Blade Master has that cooldown on Windwalk, it's not going to be as well like bad taste in your mouth. I think early on, having the Blade Master steal your experience and then be able to get away scot-free, and all it cost him was 150 mana, that felt a little dirty. Now that there's going to be a little bit of investment, risk versus reward, the Blade Master is not always going to be there. That's going to change things a little bit up. So we'll see that the Windwalk Blade Master got a nerf and a buff. Overall, I like both changes, as it allows for more interaction, and a little bit more choosing on that Blade Master. Let's move down. A Dark Ranger. Life Drain now applies the Dark Minion effect of the current rank of Black Arrows. So Drain Life and Black Arrow didn't synergize. Black Arrow's short debuff meant Drain Life was unlikely to result in a Dark Minion. This change benefits Drain Life by letting it gain the intended effect, but not damage bonus of Black Arrow. So what this helps the Dark Ranger do, it's going to be very minimal. I mean, how often were you really life draining from a unit that would actually result in a dark minion? Very, very unlikely. If you were trying to kill a unit anyways, you would just use your auto attack for that 6 mana. A Dark Ranger, like a drop in the pond, no ripple effect, or a drop in the ocean, not a pond, no ripple effects. I don't think it's going to really change anything at all. Life Drain, yeah. Like, I think that the Dark Ranger, unless in some internal playtesting they found Life Drain to be much more effective, but at high level tournament play, I haven't seen Life Drain being used all that much. Now, overall, when we go into the balance changes, there are so many good things going on here that I absolutely love. Tauren, what we are now seeing is that tier 3 units in general are all getting a buff. And then on top of that, additional research makes them stronger. And I think that's actually something that was kind of missing from Orc tier 3, Human tier 3, those types of units out there. Now, let's go into Tauren Pulverized. Taurens now start with a reduced Pulverize that deals 20 damage. So that's a flat out Pulverize that deals 20 damage. And now they're going to also have an upgraded Pulverize, which increases the damage to 60. So straight out of the gate, you're going to start to see Tauren with that Pulverize damage. And what that's going to also do is it's going to make users and make professional players at least try them out. The reason why this is such a big deal is massing tier 3 units is difficult, right? Massing any specific unit costs time, energy, and effect, and upgrades for that unit become more cost effective in economies of scale, right? Like if you've taken any business class, the more you have of a specific unit, when you upgrade that unit, the cost of the upgrade essentially goes down because it affects all of your units. So when you have priest, you have one priest with mastery training, you really would have most likely rather had 3 priests on the field or 4 priests on the field rather than 1 priest with mastery training. What this allows it to do is that the Tauren with Pulverize, 1 Tauren with a little bit of Pulverize, and then 2 Tauren, 3 Tauren, it allows you to invest in that and then go into invest in Pulverize when it becomes cost effective for the remaining Tauren. It is also important to note that because there is taxing in WarCraft 3, there is economies of scale is a little bit different. Sometimes players, well, with tier 3 units like Tauren, you'll probably get into low upkeep right around 77 to 80 supply or 75 to 80 supply and freeze there. And then if you need to be able to spend your additional gold, if for some reason your Blade Master doesn't need more items from the shop, doesn't need a potion of invulnerability, that would become worth it. Will we see more Tauren play? I don't think so. And this is a problem with Tauren in general and tier 3. Anything with heavy armor, especially in the Orc army, it doesn't really feel like it really needs it. Grunts are already very high on hit points. They do a decent amount of damage. The Blade Master is going to be where a lot of your damage is. And when you get to tier 3, all of a sudden, magic damage becomes much more apparent. You have your Frostworms, your Destroyers, your Chimeras. Griffins, you may see occasionally, but you see a lot more magic damage. And creating a unit that is going to get taken down by tier 3 magic units, like once you get to there, your tier 3 units, your opponent is going to have the ability to easily counter your tier 3 units. So that's a little bit of a shaky situation. That's also one of the reasons why fortified armor was moved from tier 3 to tier 2, because having things with heavy armor in the orc base just did not sit well, and an orc just felt the the backlash of so much undead harassment prior to that change and move to tier 2. If there's anyone who wants to chat to me on Twitch right now, I am streaming this, so if you guys see something that I missed, definitely let me know. If you have any specific questions, let me know as well. But yeah, prior changes made the Tauren totem easier to construct early. That's true. It is now tier 2 instead of tier 3, but it's still rare to see the Tauren on the battlefield. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to really change it that much. We'll have to see. I think people will experiment with it, but I don't know if it is really enough of a boost, especially lumber going from 250 to 225. Most of the time, so many players have extra lumber already towards the end game. I don't know if that's really going to make a big difference. Spiked barricades. This is one of those things where you're losing, you lose less, and that's a situation where you're never going to win a game because of spiked barricades, but you may lose less, right? If spiked barricades was the difference between your victory and your defeat, that resource, that investment could have probably been used elsewhere. I don't like this. I don't think spiked barricades is really going to be used all that much, and has not had much of a role in high level 1v1 games. And generally, if your orc burrows are getting attacked and getting surrounded by ghouls and footmen, you're already in a bad spot, right? So it doesn't really help that much. We'll see. I don't remember that many times when professional Warcraft 3 players are being like, oh, if only I had upgraded my spiked barricades, I would have won the game. And I don't think that really happens all that much. Human balance changes. Knight, new upgrades, Sundering Blades. Research at the barracks requires castle, lumber mill, and blacksmith, which is all requirements for the Knight. 140 research time. Increased Knight damage against medium armor by 15. Now, this was something that I've said about Knights in general. Knights are the weakest out of all of the tier 3 units, right? Like, just flat out, they lose against a bear with roar, they lose against an abomination, they lose against a Tauren, and that's just like swing by swing, fully upgraded, all of those things in general. One of the greatest upsides for a knight is its movement speed, but going up against orc players often have endurance aura by that point. Undead players definitely have unholy aura by that point, and bears, well, bears already have roar and rejuvenation, so they generally win out on that side. So it's nice to see knights getting a little bit of an upgrade. Whether or not, well, its biggest impact will most likely be against undead, where their knights are going to be able to chase down and destroy crypt fiends, and that's one of the benefits of knights. They have a faster movement speed to catch up to those medium armor range units. The downside is going to be Death Knight with Unholy Aura, and by this point, training knights to go up against destroyers feels like a little bit of a dangerous gambit already. I'll have to see how it works in execution. And this is going to be one of those things that I'll wait and see. I do like them going up against mountain giants. I feel like mountain giants are just incredibly, incredibly powerful. Anytime you have a 1600 hit point unit that needs to be taken down with melee, you can't really focus fire them. You need to get up in front of them and deal damage to them. That's always scary. But that's for another discussion another time. Now, animal war training has been retrained so that all the units that benefit from animal war training, well, their hit points were already higher. So before, like Griffin Riders, Knights, and Dragonhawk Riders, all of they almost felt a little bit too fragile until you got animal war training, and then they're like, oh, okay, now it's useful. By putting the upgrade, by giving all of those individual units higher hit points to begin with, and then lowering animal war training in general, it goes back to that economies of scale that I talked about early on. It almost felt like you needed 5 or 6 knights on the field until animal war training felt all right, but then you may have lost 2 or 3 knights in early fights just because their hit points weren't high enough, you couldn't micro them, so on and so forth. So this should help what human players transition to tier 3. Orb of Fire, bonus damage reduced from 10 to 5. Okay, that's a definite nerf. No longer gives area effect damage. Another definite nerf. On hit, applies a debuff that decreases effective healing abilities and hit point regeneration by 50%. Debuff lasts 3 seconds. The problem with human units in general and their heroes is that generally their auto attack isn't what makes them good. Blade Master, Demon Hunter, their auto attacks make them good. Lich, a strong range attack that also uses Frost Nova to be able to nuke units from far away. That's what made the Lich good, right? This Orb of Fire, maybe it goes on an Archmage, but that's the only guy I really see it going on. When it goes on an Archmage, all of a sudden the Archmage can use that range attack, still attack from safety. The Mountain King is going to be too far in the front lines. Paladin the same way. Blood Mage, all of his abilities or a lot of his abilities are channel based, right? Where Siphon Mana, he's going to be standing still, siphoning mana. Flame Strike, it has a 1 to 2 second cast time. So he's going to get in a position, cast, and then run. He's not going to be using that Orb of Fire. The Orb of Fire now has a place on the Archmage. This is going to be one of those things where it's wait and see. If all of a sudden the Orb of Fire can make it so that the Death Knight cannot easily Death Coil a Lich to try and save it, and the Obsidian statues aren't going to be able to heal it enough, it may be a big enough thing. Or if the Archmage can see, you know what, I see 2 units getting rejuvenated. If you micro that Archmage against the Night Elf army and try to hit both that are getting rejuvenated to reduce that effective healing, that might be good. Yeah, effective damage 10 was too high, yeah, but it almost felt like Orb of Fire. Orb of Fire almost did nothing else. I mean, you take a look at Orb of Corruption, the effective damage was more than just plus 10, right? Like the unit lost armor. Everything else hitting it did more damage all of a sudden. Orb of Venom, additional damage over time. Orb of Lightning, all of a sudden getting purged and you're just standing there unable to move. Very big deal as well. The amount of damage. Orb of Fire was just like, hey, we'll just up the damage and see if it works. A little bit lazy in terms of game design. Orb of Fire, this new version, I do like it more than just AoE and damage. We'll see how it works in the hands of professional players. A Night Elf balance changes. Glaive Thrower, Vorpal Glaives upgrade increases projectile speed. So it increases the projectile speed. It's no longer guaranteed to hit its primary target. So thank you, Danny. So it's no longer going to like track that missile, but it is moving faster. So it's going to move similar to like the Mortar Team's attacks, the Demolishers, all of those other siege units. I do like this because it makes it more similar across multiple races, how those mortar or how those siege units attack. No longer changes to do damage in a line. Instead, glaive throwers keep their pre-upgrade circular area of effect damage. All right, so looked into solving the issues. The glaive throwers upgrade always doing full damage to their target by making its projectile homing. After feedback and testing, the solution is being shelved. Change the upgrade to increase the projectile speed while allowing it to still miss its target, similar to other siege weapons. This leads it to glaive throwers being a high velocity siege weapon while fixing the bug. All right. So that pretty much self-explanatory there in the dev notes. Hippogriff Rider, it didn't make a lot of sense when Archer got on the back of a Hippogriff and then you lost some hit points. That's pretty much all that was. Gargoyle, movement speed from 350 to 400. This actually scares me. The movement speed of gargoyles with Unholy Aura was frightening. Now those gargoyles, even level 1 Unholy Aura, gargoyles now have a movement speed faster than that and then can get a 10-20% movement speed on top of that. Also, gold reduced from 185 to 175. Anyone who's ever been Mutalisk harassed is going to not like this. like this particular change. It does scare me a little bit. We'll see how this works. Um, I believe this is going to be one of those things that are going to take some finer tweaking, as players like Mad Frog, Gargoyles are just going to be running rabid for quite a while. Necromancer's spell order. It goes from Cripple to Raise Dead to Unholy Frenzy. Raise Dead is moved down. Cripple, now 85 mana, reduces movement speed, reduces attack speed, and reduces attack damage. That's nice. Unholy Frenzy, renamed to Incite Unholy Frenzy. Now 125, still 500 cast range. Ability area effects, sacrifices a target friendly unit. So what you're really trying to do is you're trying to sacrifice like skeletal minions and other units like that to give it Incite Unholy Frenzy to the surrounding unit. And this is going to be one of those things where it makes undead have to do a little bit more micro. The battles are going to be a little bit more interesting as well. And this is something I want to see in at work in the hands of high level, high caliber players, whether or not they're able to use Unholy Frenzy well. We may see some more tier 2 pushes of skeletal minions pushed with Necro Wagons at tier 2 now, since it's no longer tier 3. Skeletal Mastery now requires Necromancy Adept training to unlock. Okay. Necromancers must produce in large numbers right away in order to summon many skeletons, as their single target spells are locked behind the Necromancer training. This commitment to Necromancers can be problematic. You guys can read the dev comment here. Ghoul Frenzy, increase attack speed. Prior upgrade didn't make ghouls strong enough to make up for how poorly they trade versus other races similarly upgraded units. Increasing the attack speed by 10% changes a number of unit relations to better favor ghouls in direct combat. Additionally, the change to Necromancers having Cripple right away should also give ghouls effectiveness at tier 2. So Necromancers being able to cripple units straight out of the gate and then have the ghouls follow it up should be very nice. This Ritual of Dagger makes me is interesting. So it basically allows you to sacrifice a unit to heal units around it for say 100 points. So it's almost like a minor scroll of healing around a unit. The 300 ability effect radius, I need to see what that actually looks like in game. But all of a sudden, like if a thunderclap goes down and then you see a skeletal minion just like implode, and then it's like this little miniature scroll of healing right around it, that could be good. Whether or not it's heavily used, that I'm not really sure about. I really question that. I wanted to be used. I wanted to be highly effective, but Undead already has access to Obsidian statues. And I guess this is a way to counteract the Obsidian statues, where Obsidian statues are generally further in the back, and your ghouls, if they get too far ahead of you with Ghoul Frenzy and Unholy Aura, you need a way to be able to heal them in that front line spot. And the Ritual Dagger, whether or not it's going to be highly used, that is the question there. It works very well with Dark Ranger, Skeletal Minions, Necromancy, and those minions as well. So it looks like the moving of that reanimation and those skeletal minions to tier 2 is going to come into play a lot. I am expecting professional players to do tier 2 Necro Wagon with Ritual Dagger pushes early on to see how strong those actually are. All right, let's continue to move around. Boots of Speed no longer gets dropped. Also starts with 2 stock on the Goblin Merchants after the initial cooldown. So it's never going to be running to get that pair of Nikes who can click on the shop faster and who has the lower ping. Both people will be able to get it. Ring of Protection, removed from default creep drop tables across all levels. The Ring of Protection gold price has been adjusted to the same. So the rings have been changed to ring +3, but we being underpowered compared to other items in the tier. Yeah, Rings of Protection just felt a little bit underpowered, so we are increasing the bonus armor they provide by 1. So Ring of Protections 2 are now 3, 3s are now 4, so on and so forth. And removing the highest tier as well, usually at that point, it doesn't really help all that much. Only on the Goblin Alchemist, I think, were you happy to actually see a Ring of Protection. Now, Cloak of Shadows. Heroes carrying this item can now shadow meld during the day as well as night. That is absolutely huge, and it gives a reason for night elf players, the warden, and the priestess of the moon, to actually keep a cloak of shadows. That is going to be very interesting, indeed, how it works. Yeah, so I like it, and we'll see how that works. Timing usually during the early game, when you first got your Cloak of Shadows, Nightfall was generally around 30 seconds to a minute after, so it's not going to really affect it until after that first daybreak, and we'll see if it really comes into play. Tome of Experience is no longer going to be dropped. So it is going to be tomes of the, like, what, Tome of Training, not Tome of Training, the um, not Tome of Power either, the one to all stat Tome of Knowledge, or one of the other +2 tomes. I do like that. Sometimes it felt like a little bit of roll of the dice, in terms of what tome you're going to get. Tome of Experience was usually generally the best one straight out of the gates. And let's take a look at this. Vampiric Aura, making it now 15 to 20%. Devotion Aura increased from one bonus armor to 2, making them all their basic tier 1 level. It almost felt bad when you got Devotion or Vampiric Aura, because it wasn't as strong as the other tier 1 or the other auras that you could possibly get. Crystal Ball, item level decreased. This is huge. Like, Crystal Ball, even though it let you scout for free, this isn't StarCraft. StarCraft 2 or StarCraft, you constantly had to scout, and information was very, very keen in terms of timing, in terms of what units to properly build, and being able to juke your opponent. Warcraft 3, the fights are more drawn out, the fights are longer, and therefore instantaneous scouting isn't as important. So moving that from level 5 to level 3, I do like it. I think people will hold on to it more. And before, Crystal Ball was pretty much an instantaneously sold item. You would rather have 500 gold, but now it actually puts a question on the user. Do you want 300 gold, or do you want free scouting, even though it takes up an item slot? A Sentry Ward's cool duration has been changed, and then a whole bunch of map changes. So you guys can go ahead and read that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you to the 7 people who are currently viewing. And yeah, let me know. Oh, new map for War 3 Arena. All right, yeah. So anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys are enjoying it. I hope you guys will stay tuned as I get more and more information about Warcraft 3 Reforged. And hopefully, well, you'll be able to catch me on Battle.net. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.